Today I've got in a ThruNite T1S flashlight. I've been actually looking to get one of these on my own for a while. ThruNite was good enough to send it to me for review. And I always love reviewing ThruNite flashlights because they're one of the few companies that actually deliver what they say they're going to deliver. A lot of times companies will put inflated lumen numbers, inflated runtime numbers, and I find that the ThruNite products, whatever they say they're going to give you, that's what they give you. So I really love that. Let's take a look at the box first. It's a cardboard box here. It's really thick, thicker than your average cardboard box. And when you first get it, it's got this rubber band kind of around it to keep it closed. I love that it doesn't have the little flappy doodles. It actually, it's just a lidded box. I really like that. You open it up, it's got a little piece of paper here that, if you read, tells you the flashlight will not work until you screw it down fully. It's physically locked out when you get it. So let's take the flashlight out. Oh, look how tiny it is, guys. Such a tiny, tiny little light. Look at that. Little guy. This is what I love about this light. I mean, look at it next to a D4V2 just to give an idea. It is considerably smaller. Look at that. Considerably smaller. All right, we'll take more size comparisons in a moment, but let's finish out the box here. You take this stuff out. There's a little manual. This manual's got the UI, runtimes, lumens. We'll get into that later as well. In the box, you got a clip, you got a charging cable, and a lanyard. Let's take this clip out and take a look at it for a second. The clip, I think, is a really nice one. First off, it's a press fit down here at the bottom, so you don't have to use it if you don't want to, but you can just press fit it right there. So give it a little push. Now, what I like about this clip is it is a two-way clip. That means that it is a deep carry clip this direction, so you can put it in your pants, and your pocket's going to come right up to here, and the whole tail cap is inside your pocket, so that's nice. But it's also got this other little flap here, and what that's for is you could do a reverse carry, which means you can go into your pocket this way. Of course, it wouldn't be a deep carry then. The head would be sticking out. But really what I think these reverse clips are for is you take your ball cap off, right? You take this guy like this and right like that, right? And it's an impromptu headlamp. Okay, take that off. Now that we've gone through the box, let's take a look at the light itself. Let's do a size comparison first. This flashlight uses an 18350 battery. It's included, which I think is great because this is not a very expensive light. It retails for $39.95, but I looked it up on Amazon just tonight, and it said $39.95, but there was a checkbox to get $10 off instantly, bringing it down to $29.95. So I think that's a heck of a deal. Comes with the battery, as I said. This is one 18350 battery looks like, and let me take a look next to other 18350 lights. So here's a jet beam, here is a rotoblade, and here is a Hanko. And you'll see that this guy is considerably smaller than these other three. Let's take a look at them this way. You can see it's smaller in diameter as well, slightly. Look at by the side here. See how much tinier it is. And another thing I want to point out too, when you're looking at this light, is it is a lot lighter. I put it on a scale, and this guy, without the battery, was 1.3 ounces. Man, that's light. That's 38 grams. So considerably lighter than the other lights that I usually have in my pocket. Let's take a look at the battery itself. Here's the included 18350. It's 1100 milliamp hour. I am pleased to tell you that I tried the light with a vape cell, M11, and it worked perfectly fine. The vape cell, as you can see, is a little bit shorter, but there's enough spring in here to actually make contact firmly. Even when I was using it, I rattled it around a little bit and I didn't lose contact. Let's put the battery back inside. The machining is pretty good here. If you take a look here, look at that. See, it didn't just drop. It kind of like, the air kind of has to squish out. That's a good sign. So the machining is really nice. The threads feel good. As I said, there's enough spring in here that you got to push pretty good when you get those first threads started. So do that. And then turn it really tightly because if it's loose at all, it won't make contact, light won't turn on. Ergonomically, it's got a clicky E-switch button on the side here. A little clicky right there. You can hear it. Got a nice click to it. And it's flat. It's not raised, but it's easy to find. When I'm feeling around, I can feel it. And the reason why is there's some cues here. There's a big raised area, and then I can feel the little circle, and it feels rubbery. It feels good in my hand. I like that. There's no sharp edges on it, and the anodizing is really nice. It's a kind of a shiny anodizing, you can see. And the bezel is not crenulated at all. There is a tear or total internal reflection optic. And I noticed that the optic is concave and that there's no glass. So be aware of that. So this is an exposed plastic tear. Oftentimes manufacturers might put a piece of glass over here to protect it. At this price point, I'm not surprised it doesn't have glass. I wish it did, but for $29 with a battery, I guess that's par for the course. But just be aware that this could scratch. As I said, though, it does go in, so I think it's going to be hard to scratch it, put it that way. I don't think it's just going to bang up against things easily. But I would definitely, if you were going to wipe it off, I'd definitely use a cotton cloth, not paper towel. Paper towel will scratch this plastic tear up really badly. Opposite the switch, we've got a little charging port with a little flap. And when you lift it up, it reveals a USB-C charging port. So the included cable is USB-C to A. It does have a little flap here, a little flap right here for you to catch your finger on, so that makes it easier to peel it up and put it back down again. Let's see here. Does it twist out of the way? Yeah, it does. So that's nice. It twists out of the way. I loathe the little flaps that don't have a little twist on them. I hate when they're always getting in the way when you're trying to put the cable back in. So I can twist this back, and then I can push it flat. All right, there we go. It's got these little cutouts on the side here. I imagine these would increase heat dissipation a little bit, but they're not that deep. In my testing, the light didn't run very hot, so that wasn't even an issue. And it is an aluminum body, so it does well just because it's aluminum. Much better than like a titanium light would be. Let's take a look at the UI now. The UI is very straightforward, easy to learn. You press it once, turns on. There's 3 modes: low, medium, and high. And to get through those modes, you just press and hold. So it goes low, medium, high, and you just kind of get off on the one you want. So if you want medium, you just let go, all right? Because I can get off the bus at that point. Now, if you turn it off, there's 2 more additional modes, and that is a moonlight mode. So if it's off and you press and hold, it comes on moonlight, and this is sublumen. This is a very, very low mode. Then also while it's on any of the modes, you can double tap and you get yourself a turbo, okay? 2 additional UI elements are strobe and lockout. If it's on, you can triple tap and it goes into strobe. And to go to lockout, at least electronic lockout, you're going to go into moonlight, or I guess ThruNite calls it firefly mode. Go in that mode first, then press and hold for 2 seconds. It turns off, and then it's ignoring your button clicks until you hold for 2 seconds again. And then you go back to Firefly mode, and you can turn off and turn on, okay? Now, I don't think I would ever memorize that or even use it. It's just too easy just to go, boop, turn it that much, now it's locked out, okay? So physical lockout by just twisting the body. A light this small, you're gonna use it for an EDC, right? This is gonna just disappear in a pocket. So it's really great on a light this small that includes a magnet in the tail cap. There you go. Now that is amazing, because that just means that this thing is in your pocket. Something happens, you need a light really quickly, and you got hands-free light on what you're working on. So I love magnets and tail caps. I don't find any issue with them. There's a magnet in the tail cap of my D4 as well, and I use it all the time. And I just think that it's great to have one in a really, really tiny light like this. So small, so useful. This is my other light that I carry all the time, and it's got Dr. Jones driver, and it's got custom emitters that I've put in there, and I love it. But here's the thing, no magnet. And I'm telling you, I miss it. I'm often putting this thing in my mouth, and I just don't like working that way. I'd much rather be able to stick it to something and work hands-free, or maybe in this case, mouth-free. I mean, we've all been there. Things in your mouth, you're drooling all over it. It's just not pretty. All right, so let's take a look at some real-world lumen measurements here. First off, we're going to do the firefly mode. So I'll press and hold, and I should expect to get no measurement on my tube here, and I don't. And that's because my tube doesn't go down to sub-lumen measurements, but ThruNite says that it's half a lumen. I have no reason to not believe them. It is very dim. I love this for going to the bathroom at night, not waking up the spouse. Let's go to low. So I'll click and let's rotate until we get to low. There we go. And low measures as 8 lumens. They say it's 7, but 8, 7, that's great for low. I love anything around 10 for a low above the firefly or moonlight. Now let's go to medium. Medium, ThruNite says, is 94, and I'm getting 93. Look at that. So that's pretty accurate. Now let's go to high. Let's see. There we go. There's high. And ThruNite claims that high is 407. I'm getting 386. Now, let's take all these numbers with a grain of salt here. I mean, this is just a homemade lumen tube. It's going to be accurate probably within 10%. But, you know, if I see 380 and they say it's 407, I call that accurate. Now, let's go to turbo. ThruNite says it's 1200 lumens. Now, here's the thing. Flashlights, you know, they always calculate it by the emitters, not out the front. So if they say 1200, you can expect to get like, 1900. Let's take a look here. Turn it on and double click. And look at that. We're getting 1120, 1130. And that's a really great amount because, as I said, almost never do you get what they actually quote. This is one of the things I really like about ThruNite. And notice while I'm sitting here that we're still over 1,000 lumens. It's barely dropped. That's another thing that's really great about ThruNite. They just have really good drivers that don't drop right away. I noticed that, often with other lights, you put it in there and just after 20 seconds, the thing goes way down. I'm looking at you, the hot rod lights of the world like Lumentop and Hank lights like the MSRs. I mean, look at this. It's been on for a long time. We're still over 1,000. So, and it's not really that toasty. It's pretty good. So these are really great measurements here. I'll also point out that ThruNite quotes the Firefly mode here as almost 30 days runtime, almost a month. And then the low, let's get to low here. Okay, the low is going to be about 44 hours. The medium is going to be about 5.5 hours. The high is going to be 1 hour and 20 minutes. And then the turbo is going to be 5 minutes. And then it's going to step down to kind of a high mode for another hour plus minutes. So hour and 10 minutes. If you compare this flashlight in terms of output to other flashlights that you might have heard of, let's say like a D4 V2, this guy will put out about 2,500 lumens in the SST20 configuration. It's, 4 emitters compared to 1. But I want to point out that it does that 2,400 for about 20 to 30 seconds. And after that, it's well under 1,000. It's 900 and it drops rapidly. You might see that in some of my other videos. I did a test recently of an E70 Ace Beam. The link I'll have in the corner right now. And if you watch it, you'll see that this guy just drops almost immediately. Whereas the Ace Beam E70 was able to put out sustained output. And that's what I'm finding with this ThruNite. I'm finding that the T1S can put out the lumens it claims it's going to put out on turbo for 5 minutes. So that's really awesome. You take a look at another light like this RRT01, and this guy is much bigger. Now, these are different animals. This thing is only about 500 lumens with its Nichia 219B, but, it's a really rosy emitter. So this one's all about the look, and this one's all about lumens. This one's got an SST40 in it, and it's kind of above BBL, you know, it's green. So it's not objectionable, but if you're getting it for tint, I wouldn't do that. It's, you know, it's even on this green matte, you can see that it's greener than the Nichia 219B. So here, let's get a piece of paper here. This is a better idea. Let me dial this down if I can. Let's dial it down. There we go. And then let's put this on Moonlight. There we go. You can see the tint difference there. Now, this isn't exactly fair because this is a really rosy emitter on the left here. But you can still see that we're not winning any tint battles with the ThruNite, but that's not what I'd get this light for. I'd get it for output. Let's take a look at some SST20s here. Okay, so SST20s. This is actually slightly rosy as well, this emitter over here. And you can see that it's not as rosy as the Nichia was, but still this is below BBL, and this is a little bit above BBL with the green that's going on. Why don't we take this guy outside and see how it does outside? You know, one of its strengths is that it's a tier. I love tier optics. I'm a big fan of the way they look. And if you want to see what tier optics look like in general with, let's say, throwers and things like that, look up in the corner right now for another video I have on the AceBeam L19, and I pit it against a Noctagon K1, and you can see the reflector versus tier difference. So let's go outside with this guy and see how this tier looks. All right, let's take a look at the beam itself before we pit it against a couple other lights. I want to point out that with this ThruNite T1S, it's got this tier optic, and one of the things that is the hallmark of a tier optic is it's got a really smooth, let's turn it on here, it's got a really smooth hot spot that then just kind of fades away into the corona. There's no hard spill line. It's really gorgeous. Take a look at this RRT01 for comparison, which has a reflector. And even though this is a crinkle reflector, you're still gonna see that there's that characteristic hard outline. See that halo right there? And then there's a hard hot spot in the center. So it's just hard, and then a spill that's just kind of hard edged. So with the tier optics, they really are just beautiful. I like them a lot. I mean, not everyone maybe is a fan of them, but I think they're gorgeous. I just love the way they look. Now let's take a look at output-wise compared to other kind of really tiny EDC lights. So I got a Pineapple Mini here. That's a different length, obviously, but it's a really lightweight light that just fits in your pocket. You don't even know it's there anymore. So let's put this Pineapple on turbo. There we go. Take a look in the foreground here.
I'm using a 10440 battery, so it's putting out about 200 lumens. It'd be a little less if it was an alkaline.
But you can see that it's doing all right on this nearby tree. Let me hit turbo again. There we go. And it doesn't really make those palm trees in the back there. But there you go. That's a tiny little EDC light on turbo. Let's take a look at the RRT01. This is the RRT01 that's been emitter swapped with the Nichia 219B. You can see it's doing better. It's got more throw than the Pineapple Mini did. And it does hit those trees back there. You can see that they light up a little bit back there. All right, that's good. And then here it is in the foreground on some cars and stuff. Alrighty. Now let's take a look at the ThruNite T1S. And let's start out on low. So here's low right here. Okay, that's how low looks. Let's do medium. Okay, so medium's about 100 lumens. Let's go to high. Okay, there's high. And let's go to turbo. Oh, wow, it's really lighting up those trees back there. Those trees are 110 meters away. All right. Now notice that in use, this whitens up pretty good on turbo, and I don't find the color objectionable. And you know, your eye is very sensitive to color green, so an emitter that's green is going to put out more light than an emitter that isn't green. We find this with the green Osrams. They're very, very intense and bright compared to the white ones. But let's take a look at the tint again. against the Nichia 219B. This is an SW45K, which is a very, very rosy emitter. And then let's pit it against the SST 40 here, which is known to be kind of a green emitter. And you can see it for sure. So if you're looking for kind of a really high quality tint, I wouldn't get this light for that. But then again, this is such a pink emitter. Also notice that when I go up to turbo, it actually gets less green. Watch, double tap, see it whitens up. So that's another thing that you should just know about SST 40s. They are just kind of a green emitter at lower ramp, and then they whiten up when they get to turbo. So all in all, this little guy is really awesome. Oh, and I guess I should talk about the fact that when you turn it on, it's got a little light here in the switch that tells you its current charge level. Blue means good to go. Once it hits red, that means the voltage is somewhere around 3 volts and you should recharge it. And when it's flashing red, it's under 3 volts. It does have low voltage protection, but this light will go down to about 2.6 volts. So I would definitely stop use at solid red and charge it before you got to flashing red. All right, here's my summary. This little guy does practically all the same things that my favored D4V2 does here, but in just a lot smaller package. And it's something that you can easily get on Amazon. You know, with the MSR D4V2 here, let me give you a usage case here. I got a neighbor came over to me just the other day and he said, "Hey, what kind of lights should I get?" Well, I'm not going to send him off to International Outdoor and get this thing. I mean, first off, just the emitter list alone is like obnoxious. Secondly, explaining Andurial to a non-flashlight person is just, that's like explaining heaven to a bear, right? And then also, there's no charging port. So this is the kind of light that I will give a recommendation to my neighbor for. I mean, it's got everything my neighbor needs, right? It comes with the battery, comes with the charging cable, with the port, easy to use, tons of output, and it just disappears in your pocket. So here's my summary. This is a great light that comes with a battery for 40 bucks, and at 30 bucks, which is what I saw it on Amazon for right now, it is a steal. Thanks for watching, guys, and go ahead and subscribe because I am putting out new content all the time, and I'd like you to be one of the first ones to know about it.